sunshine when she's gone. And it ain't warm when she's away. And ain't no sunshine when she's gone. I wait down too long. Anytime she goes away.
So if you want to censor someone who's not representing you, I put it in there, but you should have press release. Only makes sense.
The song's called Forever Always. I actually wrote this tune with the kid over there.
Yeah.
10 years later, it's like, start out your luck. I've been many places in my life, but I've never felt a simple kicking life without time. It's just you, keep it coming back to road. Love, I can't deny you. Cause it's so long to find. But in this moment, here beside you, I'm gonna let go. So baby, please take my hand, and I'll take your hand. Together we stand in front of God and all the family and friends. And I just want to say, you're my forever always. In that moment, for the space and time, it's you and me in a house made of home. I found the answers to my life. And here with you, don't need to walk the world alone. Cause now I'm here beside you, and you're always on my mind. And I wanna be the love to guide you. So baby, please take time. And I'll take your hand. Forever we stand in front of God and all the family and friends. And I just want to Some little mercy like a perfect day all around me, and I say, someone man. There's no need to be alive, I'm just calling to my arms. Now together doesn't seem so far away. And take my hand. I'll take together we stand in front of God and all the family and friends. And I just want to say, you're my forever always. In that moment I knew, when I was looking at you, I learned what love is by loving you. And when the moment is past and these looks start to fade, just remember, forever always. Take your hand, together we stand. Now, family and friends, and I just want to say, you're my forever always. See you guys, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back in about 5 minutes.
Good timing, because we're gonna get this started right now. Great time.
Is it working?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey.
We're
good alive.
So you beat us here.
Huh?
You beat us here.
Yeah, I came from church.
Chris, do you mind if I speak up a little bit?
You want to do it? Give me a break. Whatever they got.
Where they go?
Fine. I know, it's just, I had to have trust.
Right.
Okay.
Keeping up with the same.
I know, I heard.
I guess the monster.
I know.
Hardware hanging out.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
have to
take care of you.
I know.
Hardware.
You take it, you say that next time.
No, it's not really perfect. It's kind of easy. You know, it's hard to nicely. But you can't open it. That's what it is. Texas, so we have most of
I love the way we different voice on this microphone. I don't have the voice that Chris does, but I want to make sure it can be heard. Everyone hear me all right? We're doing good? All right.
Okay. And so you know Castle, all that kind of stuff too. You know,
Yeah.
okay, this is your car.
Well,
Matthew, you ready to start talking?
Yes, sir, it's all yours.
All right, I'm going to be that cheesy guy and say give yourselves a round of applause for being here on a monumental day. We're celebrating the Bitcoin, the Capital Texas Food Bank, Michael Cargill for bringing us out over here and supporting the venue and providing us this stuff. So I'm glad you guys made it. Thank you for keep on clapping. I feel all special and stuff. Michael Cargill brought me out a little while ago. He was a guest on my podcast. I'm actually a stand-up comedian. And he said, hey, man, we're doing a celebration for Bitcoin. Would you go over there? I'm like, sure. And I realized it's a gun store. So this is a first for me. If I don't do well, I guess there's a real threat in the other room. Bitcoin, I don't know what your name is, but I took a picture with you, and I was so excited. Like, I felt like I was going to Disneyland. After I took a picture with Biddy over here, I literally was like, thanks, Bitcoin! And I just walked off excited as all punch. But let me tell you, I moved over here to Austin, Texas several years ago. I'm happy as much to be here. Love this city. I feel like every time I do a show in another city, I feel like I'm kind of cheating on Austin. Like, I'm intoxicated. Like, the way I talk about this town, you think they pay me residual checks. You really do. I'm in love with this city so much. That being said, I was lured here under false pretense. A buddy of mine tells me, Jacob James Garcia, moved to Austin, Texas. I'm like, why do you need me to move? He's like, I need a roommate for college, and there's beautiful women everywhere. I'm like, that's fantastic. Beautiful women, you're selling me on it. Entice me, lure me. Why are there so many beautiful women? He goes, no, there's beautiful women everywhere. But in Austin, Texas, the girl to guy ratio, that's what's impressive. There are 9 girls for every 1 guy in Austin, Texas.
yes.
What that dude lied about and failed to mention were 4 of those girls were looking for the other 5. Thank you for getting that. I know I have an educated crowd now. I did that same joke in a country bumpkin town, and I delivered the punchline confident as all punch. I'm like, 4 of those girls looking for the other 5. Some of the people laughed, and after the show, this country bumpkin came up to me after the show and says, man, dude, I gotta say, you're pretty funny. But that joke you did about those missing people, why does Austin find missing people so funny? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, you said 4 of those girls looking for the other 5. That's not funny. I said, no, that means they're gay. He starts laughing, oh my God, that's so funny. I'm like, you get it? He said, no, but you said gay. Well, at least he laughed. I don't know, I tried to go skydiving recently. It didn't work out. kind of have a little adventurous side to me, and I wanted to go skydiving. And I called up the hotline or the skydiving store, and I'm like, hey, I'd like to go skydiving. They said, sure, we just have a couple of questions for you. I'm like, all right. They're like, what's your name? I'm like, Jacob James Garcia. How much do you weigh? I'm like, 240 pounds. They're like, credit card, debit card, how you paying for this? About 10 minutes of answering questions on a phone interview, they get back to the line. They say, well, Mr. Garcia, we'd love to have your business. I'm like, awesome. But unfortunately, you do not meet the requirements. I'm like, okay, I can understand that, but why don't I meet the requirements? So like, you weigh 10 pounds over the skydiving weight limit. The guy who abides by the rules can appreciate that. Like, there's rules and regulations, and I need to follow those rules. But the 14-year-old girl inside of me basically felt hurt. That a stranger that I've never met before on the other side of this phone line basically said, Mr. Garcia, we'd love to have your business, but unfortunately, you're too fat to fall. It happened once to the dinosaurs, it can happen again. Remember that movie Armageddon? That's you, chubby Mexican brown George Clooney, because of those salt and pepper hair. That's the way I see myself. My parents took me out to eat yesterday for a pre-birthday meal. They drove 5 hours to take me out to eat, and it was exciting. You know, I don't care. I love to see my parents. I don't care how old I get. I feel like it's a treat. You know, I'm one of those guys who's a sucker for my mom and dad. I just love seeing them. It's great. They took me out to eat. They left. I got sad. I remember when I was a kid, we used to play horse. Like, you know, remember that game where you shoot the ball, you play HORSE? And I remember when my friends would leave, I would play horse by myself. But I would really put something on the line because I was a child. And I would like shoot there by myself and play horse against God. I'd be like, when I make this shot, my parents live forever. I'd shoot it and I'd miss, be like, bam! I got one more shot. If I make this shot, my parents live forever. And I make the shot and I feel like I did something good for my parents, like I did a deed. And that's the thing, I still feel like that. At 35 years old, I still feel like I want them to live forever. And I recently read this article that says when people get older, they lose their sense of purpose, they tend to die. Not on my watch, guys. So that's why every couple of months, my parents are both retired. Every couple of months, I call up my mom and dad, ask them for rent money. Mom, Dad, I can't afford to pay rent. They're going to evict me. This way, I get to live for free. They have a purpose, and I give them a sense of life. I feel like they're Jesus. I'm going to stop. We're going to keep on going with this whole thing. We're here for a celebration, guys. Thank you so much. We're going to get a bunch of speakers up here. Give yourselves a round of applause. I am Jacob James Garcia. That's my best friend, Biddy. My little Biddy. We have Jackie coming up here right now from the Capital Texas Food Bank. That's the whole plan. We're trying to raise awareness in so many ways, but here we go. We got Jackie come and say a few words for you guys.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Clap for her.
I am Jackie Rogers. I'm the Community Relations Director at the Capital Area Food Bank of Texas. And I'm so excited to be here. This is so awesome. We are actually the first food bank in the U.S. to accept Bitcoin donations. And I have some news to unveil to you. We have already raised over close to $500 through Bitcoin donations, and we expect even more after this event once we unveil that ATM. We serve over 48,000 people a week, and 20,000 of those people are children. So we have a big mission to lead the community in ending hunger and nourish hungry people. We have a very important mission, and we depend so much on community support. So this is a new way that you can give to the food bank and support your community here in Central Texas. We're thrilled to be here. We have some photo booth signs that you can use to take a picture with Biddy. We love Biddy. He's our new favorite mascot. So thank y'all so much for being here. And don't forget to check us out, austinfoodbank.org/Bitcoin. And actually the back of Biddy's costume, will you turn around, Biddy? If you scan this QR code, it will take you to our webpage where you can donate. So thanks so much.
I really hope, is that the name of the mascot, Biddy, or do we name him? I feel like we just call him Biddy now. Okay, we have another speaker coming up on stage right now. Just met him. He's a fantastic individual, though, very kind, and has a few words for you. So make some noise for Captain President of the Biddy Club, Mr. Paul Snow.
Good morning or good afternoon. How are you guys doing? Good. Okay, now we're here to talk about Bitcoin. Now, why in the world would anybody be excited about a way to spend money? Well, one of the reasons why we like Bitcoin is because Bitcoin is about honesty. And when I send you a Bitcoin, you get a Bitcoin. When you send it to someone else, they get a Bitcoin. It's transactionally safe. You know the Target, 110 million credit cards. How many of you guys lost a credit card at Target? You probably all of you did, and you don't even know it. It is insane how insecure the legacy financial system is, and we're here to try to provide an alternative, a safe alternative that keeps your money safe and is honest in the economy. I'm with the Texas Bitcoin Conference, and we're doing a conference on March 5th and 6th on Bitcoin. There's a market, merchant, and customer ticket for only $100 for the full 2 days, and we have a lot of content for you all to learn about Bitcoin. There's a full conference pass that's a little more, $325 or so right now. You can meet 80 of some of the most influential personalities in the Bitcoin ecosystem March 5th and 6th at the Texas Bitcoin Conference. And we're here to help spread the word about Bitcoin and to remind people that Bitcoin, after investment, the #1 use of Bitcoin is donations and supporting charities. There's so much goodwill within the Bitcoin community. All the naysaying about drugs and everything is a smear on the honest name of Giddy. All right, well, thank you very much for giving me some time to talk.
All right, I was just informed that Biddy's actual name is Austin Bitcoin. So I've been calling him Biddy because I just didn't know any better. So Austin Bitcoin, nice to meet you. We have one more speaker coming up on stage before we do the unveiling of the Bitcoin ATM, which I feel kind of excited about. I'm technologically impaired, so I'm catching up. I'm an 80-year-old man trapped in this body. So this is pretty exciting for me. This is like VCR, 12 o'clock time. I'm figuring stuff out too. You can teach an old dog new tricks, people. You really can. So the last speaker coming up on stage, just give me his card, and I hope I'm saying this right. But we're going to have the Bitcoin ATM operator, Sheldon J. Weisfeld, coming up on stage. I said that correct. Good. Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And welcome, everybody. I want to congratulate you for stepping out today. Obviously, the weather here in Austin, Texas is maybe a bit of a challenge, but when you talk about progress and success, we talk about in 1836 today, Texas Independence Day, at the Battle of San Jacinto, Texas gained its independence. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to mark another memorial mark on the calendar when we give the society that we know today that's working with a fiat currency system that's 19th century, we're moving into the modern day technology of the 21st century. The ability to take a cellular telephone, and more people across the globe have a cell phone than have bank accounts, can conduct business, can do financial transactions real time. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I want to congratulate you for being here today. Have an opportunity to do a transaction real time at a market transaction through a Cohen Vault ATM here at Central Texas Gun Works in Austin, Texas. And I want to congratulate Michael Cargill, owner of Central Texas Gun Works, for stepping up to be one of the first in the world to deploy this technology. Because by bringing this to you, ladies and gentlemen, gives you an opportunity to get into the world of cryptocurrency by any other name. Bitcoin, Litecoin, Middlecoin, it's Cohen. And today we launch the Cohen Vault ATM. Thank you very much. I'd like to bring up Michael Cargill, please.
Media, let's get to the machine.
Oh, well.
Did you see that? Yeah.
No, you're good. You just need walking space.
Awesome, awesome. My name is Jacob. Jacob James Garcia. What are you looking for?
It's on now.
Well, yeah.
I do have the option to save the footage.
Hey guys. How you doing? Pleasure, sir.
Let's don't forget.
Oh, the room's quiet. You can come in.
The NATO one. Yeah, well, Russia has since invaded the Ukraine, take Crimea back. Crimea doesn't want to be part of Ukraine, but Russia is saying that they should be able to take Crimea.
So many people. Yeah.
I mean, Ukraine is saying that Russia has declared war at this point by invading their southern territory. Those are Russian troops. Not this one. This is all World War III. Ukraine is second World War with Russia. We're obligated to do war.
Give me some, when you're down there, can you let this stuff? Sure.
Yeah, go to sleep at night, wake up in the morning.
Is there enough room? No, this is supposed to be the phone.
Oh, sorry.
You want to help people with Ukraine, you can send them some Bitcoin, get it off.
This one's dead.
And I don't know much about that. Their economy is so much of Russia is just they have yeah, Hey man, you guys sound good. I should plug here. I got Mark more comments about the conference. Yeah. Yeah, you're excited because you don't have to work. Really? Volunteering? All I know is that Wednesday I'm going to sneak out so I can go to a party for town. I'm not missing it. I don't know. Ask Danny. The older guy who looks like he goes technique guys. Yeah. Well, I whatever. You're gonna tell us don't do that again. Bring in my rutabaga. You know what one of those is? It's a small little white box. It's very remote. One of those is by scanning the inner another one is back of the door into a carrier network. And this was means your intentions are. I think my eyes are saying so. Yeah, it's pretty much like a Raspberry Pi.
What are they in the trade? What is in the trade? Okay. Oh, there's this one?
And there has been a few people who purchased it for that. None of them charge.
Yeah, I'm actually a modern.
None of them charge. So
Also, we Austin mentioned that, and there's no growth right, so right.
believe it or not,
We had plans to build a mission, but I realized
not for this.
there were pieces that need to be done.
So those are these steps in the far right. No, you have to have concrete. And they got replica in order to carry. One of those maintenance is one. Sure. So that I was carrying it. They have a constitution on there.
We had plans to do like a 10 megawatt narrow band transmission
Months ago, and they keep kicking my foot.
narrow band. The thing is, if you ever walk in a narrow band, yeah, you might not have a kid.
It's just curious.
So each of my guys got to know they walk past a certain part of their house. Yeah, but CC still gets involved. Like we have to a lot of flexibility. We want something easy. So release the schematics for it, release the instructions.
Yeah, plus
People can put their own house. We could make the
Every state around Texas.
only build a tower and make it 10 miles.
They already have legislation. So they need their teams. At least you don't get Texas to have to just keep on.
That's what they use for
And the only thing we're talking about here, I would say, Greg, is we're going to get doing open areas. Not far enough. I know my
They were to point you kind of like came out of that There's some project name they have.
Is that what you do?
They have all the schematics and they have like all the software and they document everything. We're like, bench labs, right on top of it. They use different
You can eliminate but pistols and Foster finished the story. So they will have to do it.
Get yourself some food. The food is open. We have some wings, some fries back here. Also, we got free shirts, t-shirts in the country.
Free t-shirt, free food.
All right. I actually together.
I don't know.
How you feeling, Mary J?
Are you getting internet? Yeah, they all have
We do a song about Austin. One night still in September, 6th Street shaking with tunes. Hold on. Come on. Summer days on the traffic square, roads and roads in the cold. Midnight beer and barbecue, something never get old. Bright lights in the little city, buckets, rocky road in the street. You need a way like Central Jackson, baby, come on home with me. Yeah, and I'm here and I'm good. Yeah, you love it now. Long, You just change. You just change. It's hard to tell. I can't see you very far. You're standing so close. Don't recognize who you are. 'Cause your love hurts the most. And I don't blame it on to live with me. You just changed your mind. Maybe it's better if you leave. We go now, goodbye. Little rise and the sea. Little rise. Now the king was dead, and now they're back together, and all their friends, they're on the world of stood up instead at the crowd, with the look of uncertainty, and it's just so quiet it is now. Shut up. me. Yeah. You telling me the love right. When you say no, you expect me to say how right. But I'm not there. She said, pour me one more glass of your cheap wine. Pour one for my friend to bail me up out of town. That's when she left this town. Hopefully change all about. You didn't see if I can be and find your company, but it's a fantasy. It's a fantasy. I can't be the one. Say you know. Ready to give up, yeah. It ain't too late to change your mind now. Girl, just come on. That's why you left it down. Why you left it down. Oh, your time. You know I can't be so I'm a find you. But it come for me right. It's a fantasy. All right, we're gonna take a little break, and again, we'll be back in about 5 or 10 or 15 or whatever else we need to.
You are cool. Do you have a charger
Really, you want to?
I'm sorry, I caught you while we were eating.
I got my charger for weekend. I'm charging my phone.
No, go ahead.
that he can't do it. I just remember. Go back to cage. Guys, umbrellas.
Just bring it back right
Oh, no, I'll just go right here. I'll just leave it right here.
Okay.
As I tell everyone, these umbrellas. It's expensive. It is. It goes, yes.
Yeah, the forecast for this week's all clear. Like rainy today and tomorrow.
Never mind, Kelly.
Last I saw, it was raining today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, but then Thursday, Friday,
I saw that Wednesday, Tuesday, at least Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday were all clear. Partly cloudy.
Right.
You only see it as like it's an economic.
And we are a little, gonna be a little bit on what
Thank you. I'm Jacob, by the way.
Yes, it's all about the optics where physics is the way the light. Everything, and then use a wide lens that makes it fast. That's why when they see, they hear
I'm sorry, say again?
television puts
Yeah, of course.
5 to 10 pounds on you, well, because movement of widening the lens. Versus movies and professional photographers, they think they know what they're doing. Maybe they're like, no, they're just a full tilt phone. Yeah, full tilt phone, you have the camera like 1,000 feet away.
And we've never done it before.
And then Raphael had to explain to us what actually happened. He was convinced that I was so
it's all on us. Yeah, next year we'll not be that way.
No, I don't know why you got that impression.
It's a really good car, by the way.
Yeah. See what I forgot.
It was sure.
Mr. Slim, it's going great. You're just making all this amazingness.
I know.
Very busy.
We'll sign up and figure out.
So, what do we got planned this week? Monday.
Have you been having a good time?
Absolutely. I have a list of things from, I guess, you or your team, where the mascot's going to be. And that's all. And I'd like to be posting.
We have a little problem.
Elevator's not
What's that?
It's very fixable. It's fixable.
All right.
I gotta do
The mascot got attacked last night on Grading Street and it's caused the alligator.
It's not damage, it's not damage. It's just a little stick, one of the little sticks on the inside that goes up.
Hey, that's a problem.
I can.
Tie another stick to it.
Okay.
Yeah, we certainly want to repair it.
Nothing duct tape can't do.
We've been 3 times that I know of so far. I'm aware of 3 times so far that we've done things since last night.
Let me charge my phone. How are you? It's been a long time. Oh, good to see you. Likewise.
So I have a lot of fun to be honest. That's just how I prefer that.
Oh, right.
Tuesday? At the track?
Right. Right, and I'll just bring my car over here. At the end of the day, I can give you all the photos, so.
I'm sitting with the meeting tonight. I'm not sure if there's a theme, but I am giving away some Bitcoin. But you have to RSVP, so the whole purpose of that, I am really a little disappointed in that when you go to look at how many people we have set up both days, like, what people showed up. And that's what I'm trying to change. I'm trying to make sure that all the people that are there are actually RSVP'd, so when, especially now that we've got more new stuff, if people can go on and they see, oh, 100 people showed up, oh, there's more than 50 here. So, and also I was looking around at some of the meetups for Bitcoin in places like New York and California and Florida, and they've got hundreds of people there. And I know that we do too, but it doesn't look like it.
The thing is, I've heard from people that have gone to the New York Thursday meetups.
I was going to say, I've been to the New York meetup last December.
Yeah,
Super small.
Make it out.
So that's one of the things I'm trying to change with the.
San Jose one has around 100 people, so they're about the same size.
Which San Jose one?
California.
Coin Summit?
Right.
No, the meetup.
I'll try to make it out.
London's the biggest one.
It's out 6 as well, so.
But that way.
Did you give an estimate of how many people were actually there?
In London?
Right.
We get over 1,200
At the meetup group?
at the meetup of London. London is huge. They want us
That's
to
what we want.
maybe help us out with the.
You saw the photos I took. So.
Tel Aviv is pretty big. It's over 1,000 too.
That are regularly showing up.
Huh?
Right.
That's Berlin
I
is
haven't been on the
huge.
show Hong Kong.
Over 1,000. New York is over 1,000. Satoshi Square.
That are actually showing up regularly.
Yeah.
But we couldn't do weekly meetings with 1,000 people. I mean, we
Not,
are at that
not at
rate.
that location, but what we could do is we could have multiple meetups during the week. I think some of us could facilitate, and not all of us need to be there every one.
All right, everyone. You're going to start a presentation from Texas Firearms Freedom on how you can use the political process to affect change in politics. Is everybody here for that? You don't feel like you have to stay. If you didn't know this is coming, you're waiting for the music, that's fine. Feel free to get up and get some food. You might have to get in and out, and that's totally fine too. But I will go ahead and start the presentation. I'm going to route the hall and see if anybody else wants to join us right now. I'll be right back. Anybody would like to join us? We're getting ready to start.
Nice.
Thank you very much.
Glad you can spill on that shirt.
That's right.
You know, right?
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. I'd like to introduce myself to you. We're going to close this door, just so we can have the presentation here. Feel free to come in and join us. That would be great. Thank you. Feel free to join the presentation.
Yeah, my people, any of the blue variations, they like this.
All right, is this better? Can y'all hear me better this time? All right, we're going to do that. So I'm going to introduce myself to you in a minute. My name is Rachel Malone, but first, I want to know really quick something about you. So we don't have time to have everybody introduce yourself fully, but can you know how many of y'all feel like how many of y'all would say you are politically involved now? That's super. How many of y'all would say you have a pretty clear idea of how to make things happen politically, like you know a good strategy? That's good. We've got a couple. How many of y'all would like to know more about strategy for making things happen politically? I'm right there with you, and I'll raise my hand. I've studied a lot about it, but I would still like to know more. And that's really what this presentation is about. I happen to run a gun rights organization, so the examples I give are going to be about gun rights and how you can use this to advance gun rights. If you happen to be for gun control, guess what? You would use the same process to make that happen. So whatever your issue is, I'm basically instructing you in the process for making change happen. I also want to make one note. I will be talking specifically about how to work through the Republican Party to make change happen, because I believe for my issue, that's a really great way this convention season to be involved and make change happen. However, I do believe there are other legitimate avenues of effective political change. So I'm not saying this is the only way, but this is a way. Can everybody hear okay? Do we need to shut some more doors? Can everybody see the screens okay? We can turn off the lights, maybe that would be helpful. Okay? There you go? Okay. Alright. See, that was, so why are you here? I'm assuming everybody's here because you want to learn about it, you want to change. Alright, who am I and why am I here? I mentioned I am the director of Texas Firearms Freedom, so I told everybody yesterday, I'm here because ever since I was a child, I have always dreamed of being the director of a gun rights organization. Although actually that's not true at all, because when I was a child, I didn't really know what a gun was. I never saw a gun until I was in my 20s. I knew something about politics slightly because my parents were somewhat involved, but guns were, I wasn't opposed to them, I just didn't know anything about them. And so how did this, what happened in my life to turn me where I am now? That started 5 years ago when my brother told me he was going to get a CHL. I had a few questions for him. First of all, what's that? Second, you aren't really going to carry a gun, are you? And when he said that, yes, that was kind of the idea of getting a CHL, I told him he was crazy and ridiculous and wrong and stupid, and that was just about the worst idea anybody could ever have to carry a gun because they're so dangerous, and why would you ever want to do that? And I started making up statistics and quoting them at him. And so he said, okay, why don't you just bring me the evidence on that, and we can discuss it, because he'd already actually done his research, which I hadn't. So I said, sure, no problem. A couple weeks later, I came with all the facts and statistics, and they absolutely supported his position. And my mind was completely changed, and so I said, okay, where can I get my CHL? Because I think that would be a fantastic idea at this point. So within a few months, I had my CHL, and I was still determined never to be one of those gun nuts who actually go shooting every week and everything. I was just going to have a CHL because it was good for self-defense. Well, fast forward a few years, and somehow I became pretty involved with firearms as a firearms instructor. I'm on a tactical self-defense company staff. I teach rifle instruction, shoot Project Appleseed, and a few other things having to do with guns. So somewhere along the way, maybe I actually became a gun nut without trying to. But putting all that aside, I heard in 2011 that there was a bill in the Texas legislature that would allow us to open carry our handguns. I said, that's fantastic, because then I won't have to worry when I go clothes shopping about, about getting clothes that conceal. That was my only goal at that point. So I said, okay, I want this bill to pass. I'm sure all the political people, all the gun nut people will make sure that happens. And guess what? It failed. It died. I was very upset, and my brother looked at me again. He said, well, why are you upset? Because you didn't do anything to make it happen. You just sat there. And I realized he had a very valid point. I hadn't done anything. I had sat there and expected other people to do my work for me and gotten upset when they didn't. And I had no right to be upset. So at that point, I realized I need to do everything that I could. 2013 session, I did do everything I could. By that time, it was actually, in my mind, it was more about constitutional freedoms, right to self-defense, things like that, not so much about clothes shopping, because I had actually done some thinking about liberty in the meantime, which was a good thing. So 2013, did everything I could, still failed, and I became aware of some reasons why this legislation was failing, and it wasn't just gun legislation. There were some representatives who were not doing what they should. They were actually blocking bills so they couldn't be voted on. And so at that point, my plan to be in politics for 6 months and then get out of it and never be in it again kind of dissipated. I decided that there was no way out of it at that point. My brother looked at me and laughed and said, yeah, I figured. And so at that point, I needed some help. I needed to know what to do. So I would like to tell you a little bit about Tarrant County and what has happened in Tarrant County. And before I jump into that, is there a clipboard working its way around somewhere, a sign-in sheet? Nobody? Okay, Jason, would you mind checking to see if that...
It's on the table.
Would you mind bringing that in? Thank you. All right, so I want to tell you a little bit about what I've seen happening in Tarrant County, which is in Fort Worth. I'm giving this as an example. I became involved with some people in Tarrant County and understanding what they were doing during the session last year when I realized they were sitting down people every week from Fort Worth to testify on some of the same bills that I was, plus a whole lot more bills. These are people who were involved. These are people who were actually changing their county and the way it operated, just by being active and understanding the process. Jeremy Blosser is one of those people. He works a lot on political processes and explaining those and understanding those. And so a lot of the presentation I'm doing today is just taken from his work and from his presentation that he's also doing, because he's also presenting this convention training. I'm adding my own examples having to do with gun rights because that is my issue, but as I mentioned, you can use this for any issue. So here's some lessons I've learned from Tarrant County. First of all, change can happen. Sometimes it can be really discouraging. We look at the state of things around us and figure there's no way out of it. But change can happen, so keep that in mind as your hope. And how can it happen? Well, you have to strategize carefully. You have to know your strategy, know your plan. You can't just wake up one morning and say, I think today I'm going to work on this avenue. The next morning, scratch that, let's try something else. You need to have a strategy. And part of that strategy is you have to know how things work. Passion is great. Being excited about your issue is great. Having an issue you want the political change you want to happen is wonderful. But you have to know the process. You have to know the rules in order to use them. Otherwise, they can actually be used against you. So it's important to understand that. This training is not about circumventing the rules. It's actually about using them and understanding them. Another lesson is it's important to think long-term. The people up in Tarrant County, they aren't thinking about, oh, we have an election next week. Oh, what can we do about this? They're thinking, oh, 6 years from now, what candidates are we going to be running? 10 years from now, what do we want our county to look like? And then what do we need to do now in order to make that happen? They're thinking very much long-term. They've been working on this for a while. They didn't just jump into be a firecracker or a flashbang. They made a big pop, made a big noise, and then got burned out and is done. They're in it for the long haul, and that's really important. Another big lesson is that grassroots activism is the foundation. That's the lesson that I've learned from seeing them. It's the foundation for legislative change, for making laws happen. Laws that will change your lives. For example, laws that would let you carry your handguns openly so you don't have to be there with a rifle. You could have a handgun instead legally. Or allow you to do that without a permit, as constitutional carry. Grassroots activism is also the means of affecting change in the public mindset. So a lot of y'all are involved proudly with CADDY. Come and take it. How many of y'all have been involved at all with CADDY? Yep, some of you there. That's great. I am too. I definitely think they've been doing a great thing in changing the public mindset just in the past year. It's a wonderful thing they're doing. And that's grassroots activism. That's people, everyday people waking up and affecting change. So thank you, Jason, back there. And is Justin here too? And Justin. And everybody else. And yes. All right.
Jackson. Don't forget Jackson.
Jackson. And thank you, everybody else. Okay, grassroots activism also changes elections. And it's a great way for people to get involved and get prepared to run for office. And we'll move on. So we have a problem. Problem that I saw, as I mentioned, when I was trying to make legislative change happen by just working on the bills and tracking bills, was the rhinos. And that stands for Republican in name only. Now, my particular issue that I would like to see happen is constitutional carry, which means carry anywhere, whatever firearm you would like without a permit. And the Republican Party platform actually includes this. And let me see if I can pull this microphone off. There we go. Republican Party platform states, we collectively urge the legislature to pass constitutional carry legislation whereby law-abiding citizens that possess firearms can legally exercise their God-given right to carry that firearm as well. Until such time, we urge the state to reintroduce and pass legislation easing current restrictions on firearms, such as open carry and campus carry. All right, that's in the current Republican Party platform. Next, also from the current Republican Party platform, firearms and ammunition manufactured and sold in the state of Texas are not covered under the Commerce Clause, and therefore are not subject to federal regulation. We urge the passage of the Firearms Freedom Act. Okay, here's reality. What do we see happening? We see people like Joe Strauss. He's a Republican. He should stand for those principles, right? That should be what he believes in. Oh, he's also elected the Speaker of the House, and by the way, he was elected when there was a majority of Republicans in the House this past time. Guess what he did? He blocked the gun bills. Those bills, the open carry, the campus carry, the Firearms Freedom Act, those were introduced, and they were blocked by Republican majority. There are many others who've done this too. So that's the problem that we have. We can sit and work on the Republican Party platform and argue about the exact wording and what we want it to say, but at the end of the day, if it's not enforced, it means nothing. So here is a solution. I emphasize the word a because this is not the only solution to all of our problems. This will not fix everything. There's still work to be done after this. And there are also many other avenues of accomplishing our mission. So if you don't want to work with me on this particular strategy, that's fine. We can still find common ground and work together. But here's a solution. What would it be like if there was a rule that said this? The Republican Party of Texas may vote to censure a Republican office holder for consistent actions taken in opposition to the core principles of the Republican Party of Texas as defined in our platform. Okay, now it already kind of says that. You can already censure elected officials, that's nothing new. But here's the new part. This censure may include a stipulation that the named office holder be declared ineligible to seek the Republican nomination for any public office for a period of up to 6 years. Do you think that would make them pay attention to what the platform said? Maybe get a little bit scared if they start working in opposition to the core principles of the platform? I think it would. So this is why I am here today. I'm here today to present to you this particular solution and to ask you if you would be willing to work with me on it. Now, even if your answer is no, I want to do the exact opposite of that, you're still welcome to stay for this training because I'm going to give you the process whereby you can accomplish this or the opposite or anything else you want. So I'm here today in the hopes that some of you will grab a hold of this and say, yes, I think that's a great idea. But we're going to move now into the process which you can use for any issue. So here's the strategy to make this happen. It's you and 4,500 others because that's how many people we need at the State Republican Convention in Fort Worth in June to raise their hands and vote yes. I think we should adopt this censuring resolution that prevents those Republican officials from running again on the Republican ticket when they don't uphold those principles of the platform. Now, how do we get there? Let's talk about it. How do you become a convention delegate? Here's the why, what, who, how, and where. Before we jump into that, are there any questions anybody has just on the general ideas that I've introduced so far? All right, we're going to jump right in. So, why be a delegate and why be involved in the party at all? First of all, let's talk about political parties. A political party is a group of like-minded voters organized for the purpose of implementing their shared beliefs as public policy. It's kind of a mouthful. A group of like-minded voters organized for the purpose of implementing their shared beliefs as public policy. Well, this means they have to, number one, define those shared beliefs, and number two, implement those beliefs in public policy. Is that clipboard filled up already? Has everybody gotten it? Can we keep on passing the clipboard? Who has not gotten the clipboard? Raise your hand. All right, we'll just keep passing it around. We'll get it over here too. Has everybody else over here already gotten the clipboard? All right, thank you. All right, so that is basically what a political party is. Now let's talk about elections versus conventions. I have a lot of people saying, you know, I never vote because my vote means nothing. I'm just one person out of how many? Well, let's look at how many. 2012 Texas general election, we had 9 million votes. 9 million voters. So yeah, 1 out of 9 million. I still think it's absolutely important to vote, but sure, that's not really good odds. 1 out of 9 million. If you're trying to convince 9 million other people about your views, how likely is that going to be to happen? Not so likely. So, 2012 Republican primary election, your odds increase. You only have 1.5 million voters besides you. So, could you reach half of those and get a majority for your opinion? It'd be easier, but still, that's quite a few. Let's look at the Republican Party of Texas State Convention. You have 9,000 voters. So how likely is it that you could actually convince half of those of your side and you can win a majority? Is that a lot more likely? I say yes. So you can actually leverage your voice in lobbying them to agree with you. You can also leverage your vote a lot better because you're only 1 out of 9,000 instead of 1 out of 9 million. So that's why I believe this is a great strategy and a great plan for making change happen. All right, let's move on. What are conventions? I keep on talking about conventions, and if you've never been, you might have no idea what I'm talking about. So let's go over this. Conventions are a place for party members to, first of all, define those shared beliefs, and then decide how to implement them into public policy. Make sense there? So if we agree that we all believe on these things, and there are going to be a lot of other things you don't agree on, but you at least define the things that you do have in common. Okay, and then you decide what you're going to do about that, how you're going to make those things happen. And I think all carpets in Texas hotels should be purple, and this is how we're going to make it happen. Hopefully that's not going to happen, but we'll see. All right, you have your precinct convention, and then your county or SD. If you're confused by this already, don't worry, I'm going to define these in a minute, okay? Just put a pin and hold it. So your precinct is the first one, then your county or SD, I'm going to call it either one, it's the same thing I'm talking about. Then your state, and then your national convention, which is usually the one that everybody's really interested in a presidential year because then they're talking about presidential nominee. This is not a presidential year, so you don't even need to worry about the national convention. That's not the reason I'm asking you to go to conventions. So, you can think of these conventions as being sort of like basketball playoffs. You could define them as a tiered set of meetings that each primarily have the responsibility to elect delegates to the next level convention until delegations from the entire nation come together in a group small enough to get work done. So I think of basketball playoffs, you're not picking a winner every time there's a game, right? You're picking the person who's going to go on and play the next team, the person who's going to go on to the next level. It's a little different because you're not picking somebody to represent you, you're picking the winner. But that's sort of the idea. So in basketball playoffs, you might start with 16, narrow it down to 8, narrow it to 4, and then to 2, and then you have your winner. We're sort of narrowing down the field every time we get to a new level of convention so that then we have a group small enough to get work done. That's the basic idea of conventions. All right, precinct conventions. This is in your neighborhood. They're local. They're easy. It's a very low time commitment. It's very easy to be involved in this way. Everyone who shows up is a delegate. You don't have to fill out an application and hope you get picked. And we're going to talk about how you're eligible. But if you're eligible and you show up, you are automatically a delegate. Traditionally, the precinct conventions have always been election day after the polls close. Technically, they're actually 30 minutes after the last voter votes. So if there's a 1 hour line at 7 o'clock when the polls close, the last voter gets into the booth at 8 o'clock. Let's say he spends 2 hours deciding who he's going to vote for. He finishes at 10 o'clock. Your precinct convention starts at 10:30. Now, I've never seen that happen before, so hopefully it doesn't take 2 hours. But that's the way it would work, technically. So, this year, for the first time, counties can actually change that, so they can decide to hold their conventions either that night, election day, which is this Tuesday, March 4th. They can hold them the morning of the next level convention. They can set their own time and place. I believe Travis County has announced that the conventions will be 8 o'clock p.m. on election day, or if you had a long line, then obviously be pushed later. But you can check with your county party chair to determine when these conventions will be for your county. And by the way, definitely make sure you sign on that clipboard because I'm going to be sending out links to all this information. I'm going to send out handouts. I'm even going to send a link for video training, so if you didn't catch everything this time, you can hear it all again. So make sure you sign on the sheet so you can get all this important information that you will need. All right, what do you do at a precinct convention? Basically, you do two things. You introduce a resolution, which is just a statement of what you want to happen. That's the official term for it. And you're going to elect your delegates to the next level. Talk just a minute about the delegates, okay? When you elect delegates, there are a certain number allotted for your precinct. So say if that's 5 delegates allotted, then you will elect 5 delegates to go on to the next level, and you will also elect 5 alternates. So that when you get to the next level convention, if all those 5 delegates don't show up, they're going to pull in the alternates in the order they're listed. And don't be discouraged if you are only an alternate, because typically all the alternates get to participate at least some during the convention. I've definitely been there as an alternate and done a lot of participation. So please, still come, even if you're just an alternate. It's still an important job. All right, that's your precinct conventions. Let's move on to the next level. Say that you went to the precinct convention in your neighborhood. It's going to be at your polling place, typically. Although definitely check with your county party website. I know Travis County has a big listing of all the different locations. It's not necessarily at your polling place. So make sure you look through that and determine where it's going to be. Just Google Republican Party, Travis County, and you'll find that. So say you go there, you get elected to the next level convention. That's going to be your county convention. Now I said it could be called county or SD. What was I talking about there? Here's what I was talking about. It's actually your senatorial district within that county. That just means whoever your state senator is, you'll be meeting with all the people inside your county who also have that same state senator. So your county may be split up. Travis County is split up with several different senatorial districts. So that can be called the county convention or the SD, senatorial district conventions. And again, you'll have delegates plus alternates. Definitely show up if you're just an alternate. The county convention is Saturday, March 22nd. Plan on it being all day. We never know how long it's going to last. Last year it was crazy. It lasted until late at night in the parking lot. Hopefully that won't happen again this time. But come and be prepared. Definitely bring food, bring water. Don't leave the room if there's something important going on because you will miss your food. So, Saturday, March 22nd, that would be the county convention. And by the way, it's fairly easy to get elected as a delegate to the county convention if you want to go. So you'll be at your neighborhood precinct convention deciding who gets to go, and they'll probably ask, okay, who wants to go to the county convention? And typically, there will be more slots than people who want to go, and you'll just get to go. Sometimes, if you live in a really active precinct, which can happen in the Austin area, then you won't necessarily be able to be a delegate. You don't have to lobby for yourself. Can we keep the sound down a little bit in the back? That would be super. And y'all feel free to get up and get some food if you'd like, but we'll just try to keep the volume down so we can hear. All right. What do you do at a county convention? What happens to your resolutions? We're going to talk more about resolutions later, but just understand for now that most of the work on resolutions at the county convention actually happens before the convention, or not with the whole group of people. It's going to happen just in a small committee. Okay? That's something tricky that you need to know. If you don't know that, you can get kind of screwed. If you do know it, you can really use it to your advantage because you only have to convince the majority of the committee members instead of convincing everybody at the whole convention a lot of times. So we'll put a pin on that, talk about it later, but that's what you need to know about resolutions at county conventions. And again, what do you do at county conventions? Well, you elect delegates to the next level, delegates plus alternates. And you also vote on whether to approve the committee's recommendation on the resolutions. Resolutions can still get introduced at this point. It's possible, but it's better to get them introduced earlier and get them moved along. So, let's say you get elected as a delegate to the state convention. You want to either make sure you're elected or you elect somebody whom you trust to represent you. Let's say you get to go, and I hope every one of you in this room is going to try to go to state. Because I think that you can do a great job. I think you can study and learn how, and I think that you can be an effective delegate. So let's say you make it. You're at the state convention. State convention changes the playing grounds a little bit. So up until now, everything has been fairly local, either your neighborhood polling place for one evening for a really short convention, or on a Saturday in your county. It might be all day a Saturday, but that's still not a huge commitment. Everything changes at state. Here's what it involves. You've got to go to Fort Worth. It is June 2nd through 7th. That's all week, and yes, that includes weekdays. And yes, people who work will have to take vacation to get off and come. And yes, it's probably worth it if you possibly can, because we're talking about securing the blessings of liberty to your posterity, right? We're not talking about a fun trip on a vacation. So I understand some people can't, and that's okay, but seriously consider how you can make this happen. June 2nd through 7th. Now that is not the full convention the whole time. That includes the committee meetings. But remember what I said, a lot of work, a lot of decisions are really made in committee meetings. So if you skip those and you only show up when the whole entire convention starts on June 5th, you'll be a little bit late for a lot of the action. So plan on being at the committee meetings. Even if you can only drive up for one day of committee meetings, that can still be helpful. Again, state conventions, you have delegates who are there, plus you have alternates who will come in and take the place when delegates are not there. And you will have full session with all 9,000 delegates. You'll also have some split meetings, either with your senatorial district, with your congressional district, with your congressman, your U.S. representative, everybody who also shares the same one. So plan on going to different meetings, wear comfortable shoes to walk around, take food and water, and plan to stay late. You never exactly know the hours, because these things don't have an ending time. You start your meeting and you work until you're done, until the business is finished. So plan to be in it for the long haul. Sometimes people say the world is run by those who show up. Sometimes at conventions, decisions are made by those who stick it out to the end. So be one of those people. Be one of those who sticks it out. Again, at state conventions, okay, here's the first time you are actually going to vote to adopt your resolutions. Up until now, you've only been voting to recommend them onto the next level. Now you actually get to make your vote, raise your hand and say, yes, I think we should censure people like Joe Strauss. People who have not upheld the Republican platform, and keep them from running on the Republican platform. So I think we should adopt a rule that lets us do that. So this is when you actually vote to adopt it. This is the cool one. This is the important one. And it also, don't underestimate the importance of this. Besides voting on your platform and rules, you are going to elect people to run the party for the next 2 years. Now let's say we get that censuring resolution passed. That's one of my projects I'm really excited about. Let's say we get that passed. And then we elect people to the party who don't really care about that. Do you think they're going to enforce it? No. Are all those 9,000 delegates who wanted that resolution going to be meeting again every week to make sure it's enforced? No. Their job is done. So you have to elect people whom you trust to enforce this. So make sure that happens. You're electing people to run the party for the next 2 years. So that pretty much explains just the overview of a precinct convention, a district convention, and a state convention. Are there any questions so far? I am going to go into some, yes.
I think if you don't make it to the Senate, the SC convention, you can still be chosen as a delegate to the state. Do you know if that's true?
Okay, question is if you don't make it as a
to the county convention.
Right. Okay, that's a good point. So say your precinct convention, you don't get elected a delegate to your district convention. You could still be elected a delegate to the state convention. You want to go before, again, the committee that makes it the nominations committee and let them know you want to run.
What if you are elected a delegate but you don't make it to the convention?
Oh, you're a delegate and you don't actually make it, then same deal. I mean, you're not automatic to be considered to go to state. You don't have to have been elected a delegate. You don't have to have showed up. It's a whole lot better if you do. You have a lot more chance of convincing them that you're interested in the process. But I know I have personally been elected a delegate to state even when I wasn't at the district convention. So it's possible, especially if you know people on the committee who can recommend you. Does that answer the question? Thanks for bringing that up. All right, how do conventions work? And this is the same for all the conventions, although it's done a little, there's some minor differences we'll talk about. There's a rule book for how these conventions are conducted. You can think of this, again, back to your basketball playoffs. There's a rule book for how points are scored, what is a foul, different rules for how the game is run. Again, we have a rule book for how the conventions work. First of all, we go back to the U.S. Constitution. This is our grounds for meeting together in political parties. The First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution guarantees the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. And this has been upheld in the courts to affirm the actions of political parties meeting together. Obviously, there are many other ways people can peaceably assemble, but this is one. They're also run by Robert's Rules of Order, so if you've been to board meetings, you'll understand the general flow of that. But Robert's Rules of Order are just a good way for making sure meetings run in such a way, even if there's a difference of opinion or there are contentions, different factions, making sure that everybody gets heard. So if you are the only person in the room with your opinion, nobody else shares that, you should still get a chance to get before everybody and make your opinion known and lobby, basically, to try to convince the others. And then they'll vote on whatever you were saying. And if you convince them, that's great. If not, then you've had your say at least. But that's the idea behind Robert's Rules of Order. Then we also have the Republican Party of Texas rules, and it has been said these rules are sort of like you have your, in the Bible you have the 10 Commandments, it's kind of thou shalt and thou shalt not, and then you have your Book of Numbers, which is a lot of numbers and statistics. You can say the Republican Party rules are somewhat like this. You have some Book of Numbers type things where you have this delegate allotment that can be kind of boring and tedious to read. For some people they might be interesting, but for others you might want to stick with the other rules that you can wrap your head around a little better. At any rate, try to read those rules because, again, knowing the process is a great way of being able to understand how to affect political change. All right, conventions are run by a chairman, which is sort of like your referee back in our basketball analogy. And you have a temporary and a permanent chairman for each convention. So let's explain a little bit how that works for each separate convention. The precinct convention, we'll start with your temporary chairman who starts running the meeting. And typically that is, I'm going to throw another term at you, that is your precinct chairman. That's somebody who in the Republican Party who's been elected to run Republican Party activities in that particular precinct in your neighborhood. And so if you have a precinct chairman and he shows up, he will be the one as your temporary chairman. If he's not there, anybody can just request the packet of information that's there and start the meeting. And then your temporary chairman guides you in electing your permanent chairman. And this may or may not be the same person. Typically it is, but it doesn't have to be. And if you feel that the temporary chairman is not being fair and not letting everybody at least have their say, and hearing different sides, then feel free to try to elect a different one. Otherwise, it would probably be easiest to just stay with the same one. Let's go back. So for the district convention, it's going to be pretty similar. You're going to start with a temporary chairman whom you elected to run the party for the past 2 years. And then he or she will guide you in electing a permanent chairman for the convention. Yes?
I had a comment. They always like to say that the temporary chairman has already put in so much work and deserves to be the permanent chairman. But even if your chairman is being unfair, just because they put in the work beforehand does not guarantee them the position of permanent chairman.
That's a really good point. So Carly's saying, even if everybody's saying, oh, your temporary chairman has put in so much work that he or she really deserves to get to be the permanent chairman, being a chairman or being elected to a delegate or anything for that matter is not like a reward or a treat for having done some, put in a lot of hours. It's a position of trust. So you need to elect somebody whom you trust to do that. So be aware of that. You can still be courteous and you can be grateful to whoever put in a lot of hours for their dedication, but that does not mean that you have to elect them as your chairman. So, thanks for that. And same thing essentially happens at state. You'll have your temporary chairman who you elected to run the party for 2 years, and then he will guide you in electing your permanent chairman. Typically, it ends up being the same one, but again, nothing in the rule says it has to be the same one. So think about whom you want to elect. And trust. Okay, in the process, conventions are going to have terms like motions. I move the previous question. I nominate so-and-so for secretary. Wording, language like that. And it's somewhat technical. You don't have to know a lot of it in order to be effective as a delegate, but it's important to study a little bit of it. We're not going to be going over a lot of that in detail today. Actually, we changed our plans a little bit, but I'm going to be emailing each one of you a link to where you can hear about Robert's Rules and where you can hear a mock convention. So make sure I have your email address. That's really important if you've never been to a convention before. So basically, I decided we could sit here and watch that video together, or I could let you do it on your own time. And I thought you'd probably prefer doing it on your own time. That was the reasoning behind that decision. So somebody will make a motion for something, and then you'll have a time where you debate that. So whether it's a resolution or you move to nominate a delegate, and you get to debate on that. And it's debating means each person who wants to speak on it will have generally an allotment of time, and then you'll have a vote on that. Now, during the debate, you might be actually voting on amendments, okay, before you actually get to the real thing you're voting on. It can get confusing, so try to follow it the best that you can. Sometimes, voting an aye vote actually means nay to the whole original something, and you have to kind of keep track of that. So try to stay on your toes when that's happening. And one more note about that: conventions get more formal the higher they move up. If you're in your neighborhood and you're sitting there with it's you and a couple family members and a couple neighbors, it's not going to be super formal and strict, probably. It's probably going to be a little more like a discussion around the table. As you move up, you have more people involved. You have 200 people and then a few thousand people. It's more and more formal because it has to be. It can't be just a dinner table discussion with 9,000 people. I still haven't figured out how to do that yet. So that's your rule book and your chairman and your process, and that's what all the conventions have in common. All right, who can be a convention delegate? Basic answer is any Texas Republican can participate in the convention process and become a delegate. Let's talk about what that means. How to be a Republican? Does it mean, to be a Republican, does that mean like you have read the whole entire platform and all the rules and have all the rules memorized and you agree with the whole platform? You're going to name your firstborn child Abraham Lincoln, you're going to dedicate, your... No, it doesn't mean that. All it means is, we'll go over this, you're a registered voter. Hopefully you're already registered because they had to receive your registration by February 3rd here. And you vote in the Republican primary, or you take an oath of affiliation. All that means is that in any given election or convention cycle, you participate in only one party's process, okay? Just means you're not going to participate in the convention or primary with another political party for this cycle. General election, you can actually still vote for whomever you want. 2 years from now, you can participate in any other party process. That's what this means, okay, to be a Republican. When you vote in the Republican primary, you either take your voter registration card and get it stamped Republican, or they will give you a little card that says you voted in the Republican primary. And that's what you need to take with you to the precinct convention as a credential. Now, what if you forget it or you don't have it? They can still check the roll books of who voted in the primary and verify, yes, you're eligible to be here. But it's a whole lot better if you actually have that piece of paper just to verify in case there's any conflict or difference of opinion about whether or not you're eligible. So it's always helpful to have that credential. Or if you actually woke up at 7 o'clock p.m. and just got out of a coma and you just realized that the primary's already ended and you missed them, and you haven't been aware of anything for 2 years, but you really, really, really want to go to this convention, you can still go and take an oath of affiliation, which just means the same thing. You're not going to participate in any other party process. So that's how to be a Republican. To be eligible, to sum up, make sure you're a registered voter in Texas and you have not participated in any other party's process this election cycle, and show up and attend the conventions. Attend the first convention and get yourself elected as a delegate to the next convention, or elect others to represent you. So that's basically how you become a Republican. how you become a delegate. Are there any questions on that, on how to be a Republican or how to be a delegate? Eligibility. I think we're good. All right, let's talk about resolutions. So this is what we're really excited about. This is where we get to make our opinions known and make them actually become rules. So, resolutions are a means for proposing your ideas. When you go to the precinct convention, at your neighborhood convention, make sure you bring 3 copies of your resolution in writing. And it could be as simple as, I want to open carry my handgun. 3 copies of that, and that would actually technically work as a resolution. Or it can be a little more involved and have a lot of official language, whereas the Republican Party of Texas platform includes constitutional carry, open carry, and campus carry, whereas these bills were introduced, whereas our Republican representatives blocked this, whereas they didn't get a chance to vote on it, whereas I think that makes them jerks, whereas whatever you want to say, all your whereases, and then you can say, we hereby urge the legislature to pass the rule, or we urge whatever we want to happen, okay? That's the wording, the official wording of your resolution. I do have some handouts for you with that resolution that I talked about, and with how it becomes a rule, and I'll pass those out. I'm also going to email that to all of you who are on that list, so make sure you're there on our list. So, precinct convention, you bring 3 copies in writing, and you propose your resolution during the appropriate agenda item. Chairman asks, are there any resolutions? That's one of the agenda items, and you say, yes, I'd like to introduce constitutional carry, or this other resolution. And that's your chance to do that. And then there will be a discussion and debate on it. Okay, during the discussion, somebody else might have a good idea, whatever your resolution is. You might say, I really think that everybody no matter where they live, should be allowed to have 3 chickens in their backyard. And somebody says, I think that should be 4. And somebody says, I think it should be 2 for every adult member. And then they say, no, it needs to be 17, not 18, and you discuss the reasoning why. Okay, I'm just throwing this out as an example. But you can discuss and you can have amendments. You might say, you know what? That other person had a really good idea that I think makes my resolution better. So some people actually might have ideas that would make your ideas better. So keep that in mind. Don't feel like just because you've put so much effort into thinking of your resolution that this is the final word on it. So be open to considering amendments, and then vote whichever way you feel you should. Yes or no on this. So that's your vote. All right. At the other conventions, your resolutions will go to committees, and so we're going to talk through the process of that. This doesn't have all the text included, but I'm going to. It's kind of small on the PowerPoint. You can't read the whole thing, but you can sort of see the concept here. You have your 3 different locations. You have your precinct convention, your county, and your state. And you notice a column in between each of those? That's for the committee. So here's what happens to your resolution. Okay, it starts out over here at your precinct convention. So you introduce it. You say, I think we should do this. And you lobby for it, and a majority of the people agrees with you. And so they vote, yes, let's vote to recommend this to the next level. So all the precincts in your whole county will do the same thing, and all those resolutions will get sent over here to the county party office, sitting in boxes, filling up rooms. And a committee will go through all of those and decide, okay, which ones of these do we actually want to recommend that all of the delegates at the next level convention agree with, or vote to recommend. So the committee goes through and sorts through and says, you know what, a ton of people from all throughout the county all introduced the censure resolution. I think that's really important to them, so let's make this happen. Or they say, this is a really weird resolution, we're not going to make this one happen. Okay, so it's not an absolute decision, but they're going to make a recommendation for all the delegates in the convention. Okay, so you start out in precinct, now you're in the district committee, and let's say you can go there actually and lobby the committee members when they're having committee meetings. You can check your county party website to find out, and try to convince them that your resolution is good. You can talk with them in the halls, and they come out to get a water break, and that's acceptable. Do whatever you can to convince them that this is a good resolution. Get yourself on the committee, make friends on the committee. That's a good idea, okay? So say the committee says, yep, we agree with that. They're going to take it before the whole body of delegates at the county convention. And they're going to say, we recommend that you recommend this to the next level. And so all the delegates at that district convention will either say, yes, we agree with your recommendation, or no, we don't. Okay, so ideally, your resolution made it all the way that far. If it didn't, you can still come and introduce it. But say it did, you're gonna lobby for it. Hopefully, everybody votes for it, and they recommend it on to not the state convention, but actually the state. It goes to the state committee. So it's going to move to the state committee, and they're going to do the same thing. They're reading through all of the resolutions they received from all over the state, from all the different counties, and they're going to put together which ones they feel are important to everybody as a whole. And they make the recommendation for the state convention, and then that fifth column there is you at the state convention, hopefully you. And that's when you want to be able to vote, not just to recommend it to the next level, but to actually adopt it as a rule. So, does that make sense, sort of, in your minds, how it moves from precinct convention to the next level committee of convention, the next level committee and convention, and that final step is where it gets voted as a rule? Any questions on that? Okay. So to reiterate, we really wanted to start down here and make it every step of the way, all the way up. If it gets kicked out at some point, there's still hope. We're kind of working uphill at that point, but there's still hope for getting it back up. And there's something you can do at each level, whether it's lobbying committee members or lobbying the delegation, the whole delegation of the convention. And you can actually talk to the committee members even if you're not a delegate. So keep that in mind too. All right, help your resolutions. A couple things you can do: show widespread support. That would be great, actually. So you want to show widespread support for your position. If you're the only person in the state of Texas who introduces a resolution, it is not as likely to go far. It still might, but it's a lot better if you bring your supportive neighbors to the precinct convention to help move on. But you also get the same resolution introduced around your county, and even introduced in other counties around the state. And that's why I was in Midland a couple of days ago talking to people there about introducing it there. There's a meeting in El Paso this afternoon. There's another one in San Antonio tonight. We're trying to get this introduced all over the state so we can show widespread support. Because so far, everybody I've talked to about this has been really excited about it. I think there is support among the people who know about it. Next, you want to lobby your committee members. So, as I mentioned, you go before your committee, and you can lobby them to agree with you. Give testimony in their committee, obtain their vote, possibly even get yourself on the committee. So that kind of sums up what you can do to help your resolutions move forward. Again, whether it's my resolution that I'm giving you today, or a constitutional carry resolution, or something completely different or opposite of that, this is the same process that you would use to help your ideas move forward. Are there any questions about the resolutions? How that works? Can I miss anything? All right. So Abby mentioned I'm going to give you a video link so you can learn more about Robert's Rules and a practice precinct convention. I don't really feel it's the best use of everybody's time right now to play that video. So there's about 20 minutes that you can listen to and learn. Really helpful if you've never been there before, but that's something you can do on your own time, so I think I'm going to let you do that unless anybody has any other questions about it. Okay. Something I want you to keep in mind is that the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. And for a lot of us, that means we're not sleeping a whole lot. I think I'm getting a lot more sleep than a lot of activists, and I'm still pretty exhausted. I've honestly, the couple of times accidentally so far, thankfully it's never been when I was driving, and I hope that doesn't happen. But there are a lot of people not getting very much sleep, and that's what liberty is about. It's eternal vigilance. So keep that in mind. It's worth it. Yeah, we do have to pace ourselves, but when there's important work to be done, we can leverage our voice and our vote. Let's do it. And I have a question. What about you? So there's a poem that says, "For want of a nail, the shoe was lost. For want of a shoe, the horse was lost. For want of a horse, the rider was lost. For want of a rider, the message was lost. For want of a message, the battle was lost. For want of a battle, the kingdom was lost. And all for the want of the horseshoe nail." So you might feel like your job or your role is kind of that of a nail. One little measly nail. What good is that? How important is that? You're making a phone call. You're holding a sign at a polling place. You're walking with a couple other people down the street with a rifle or a black powder pistol. Are you really doing any good? And I want to remind you, again, have your strategy, have your long-term strategy, but even if you feel like your role is insignificant, you might be that pivotal nail. And without you there doing your job as a good nail, the kingdom might be lost. The whole war might be lost. So if your job is that of a nail, be the best nail you can be. And then a specific question, what is your role? What are your passions? My passion and my role that I see right now is working on gun rights. You might have something that's complementary or the same or something totally different. You can still be an extremely effective activist, even if you're doing something that looks completely different than what I do. What are your abilities? Are you a speaker? Are you a writer? Do you do lobbying? Do you have IT skills? Do you understand political processes? Do you have specific skills? What are your resources? Are you totally broke, but you have actually a lot of time on your hands right now? Or maybe you have connections to people or access to people who could be helpful. Maybe you have funding. Maybe you have sources of funding. Maybe you have certain skills, like I mentioned. Maybe you have other random resources. Maybe you have spare batteries for cell phones or computers. Maybe you have a big van where you can take people with you to the state convention. Maybe you have a truck where you can haul signs around. Maybe you have a house where you can house people. Maybe you have some other random assets that can be useful. So be creative. Think of what you have, not what you wish you had that you could give but you don't. Think of what you are able to give. You know, what nail are you supposed to be that works together with everybody else? Got some specific questions for you to think about. Actually, I want some answers to these. So, how many of y'all think that you can train and bring more delegates to your precinct conventions? Can you take this information that I've given you and the links that I'm going to send you, maybe watch the videos with a couple of your neighbors or with some family members? How many of y'all feel like you might be able to bring some more delegates to your precinct convention? That's great. I encourage you to do that. Even if it's only 2 or 3 people, that's 2 or 3 more nails that can win a kingdom, right? We want that. Okay? How many of y'all feel like you're planning to attend your precinct conventions? Good. District conventions, March 22nd. Good. How many of y'all feel like you could go to state? Planning to go to state? That's awesome. Pretty much everybody's hoping to, and I understand if it doesn't work out, but make an effort and go to those committee meetings. How many of y'all, and if the answer on this is no, that's okay. I'm not going to put pressure on you. How many of y'all really like that resolution that I introduced about censuring? I'm seeing like 100% here. That's great. All right, so how many of y'all feel like, would you be willing to introduce that resolution? That's great. I will be emailing you a copy. I also have a handout that explains more about the resolution. And what about, that's referred to as the Restore Our Republic resolution. I personally call it the Boot the Rhinos resolution, so you can call it whatever you want, but that's what it's talking about. What about a constitutional carry resolution? How many of y'all be interested in proposing that? That would be great. And again, we do have constitutional carry in our current platform. However, the whole platform gets redone every 2 years, so it'll be redone. We want to make sure that still goes in, and it can be stated more strongly. My real thrust this year is trying to make sure the platform gets enforced, but hey, it's still a good idea to have good stuff in the platform. So let's introduce that one too. Other resolutions, feel free to introduce whatever your issue is, whatever is important to you to get that on the platform. And final question, how many of y'all feel like you can continue to be involved or would like to continue to be involved after the conventions? Like I'm thinking general election this year and also the legislative process next year with bill tracking, testifying, yes, lots of yeses here, that's great. I'm really interested in y'all being there to help, whether you're helping on gun rights or on other issues, because see, I track gun bills. I did a lot of that last year, and it kept me busy pretty much as much time as I could find. There are a lot of other issues too, so I could use a lot of help from any other liberty activists who would want to help work on gun bills, track them, testify on them. I would also appreciate other people working on other issues that are important for liberty that I don't have time to personally investigate. So there's a lot of work to be done there. Definitely stay on my mailing list. Check the Firearms Freedom website and Facebook page as we get towards this fall. I'm going to be doing some trainings to help you understand how to track bills, how to track legislation, how to be an effective giver of testimony there. So keep in touch for that for sure. Got another question for you. Do you sometimes feel like there's so few of us, it's kind of stupid to stand up for something sometimes? And there's another man who actually made that statement. You might be surprised if you don't know the story. This is early morning of April 19th, 1775. A man, who we don't know his name, stood up there on Lexington Green, along with Captain John Parker of the Lexington Training Band, and he looked around and he saw 50 or 60 men standing there on the green, shopkeepers, blacksmiths, farmers, husbands, fathers, uncles, cousins, relatives, the whole community there, standing there with their arms. They were standing there watching all the hundreds of British regulars march like a well-oiled machine with gleaming redcoats, gleaming bayonets, marching up towards them, towards the Concord Bridge, towards the town of Concord where they could grab the gunpowder and the confiscation happening there. But they had to pass by Lexington Green. As they approached, this man looked around and saw 40 or 50 standing next to him, and he said, "There are so few of us, it is folly to stand here." Maybe he was right. Looking at the facts, it was stupid to stand there. They had every reason they were going to get moved down. There were so many reasons that they were going to lose that war. So many reasons they could have just said, you know, let's go home and be with our families because we really want at least a few more years or days or weeks with our families. But they stood that day. They stood. A quarter of them were moved down. They didn't know what the results would be. They could have been hung for treason the next day, those who survived. And still they stood. Why did they stand? Because they had something they really believed in and they were fighting for. So I want to encourage you. Keep fighting. Keep standing. Find something you really believe in. Stand up for it, even if you think it's foolish. Because it's never folly to stand when your cause is good and right, when you're standing up to secure the blessings of liberty to your posterity.